Your future is watching. What will you do today? Every action you take today is being witnessed, not by the world, not by the people around you, but by someone far more important, the person you are becoming. Your future self is watching you right now, watching how you think, watching how you act, watching how you respond. When things get hard, watching whether you rise or whether you retreat back into comfort. And one day that version of you will either look back with pride or with regret so deep it cannot be undone. Because the truth is brutal. You are not building a life someday. You are building it right now in the quiet moments, in the unseen hours, in the decisions nobody applauds. That is where your future is being shaped. Most people think success is something distant, something that happens later. But success is not an event. It is a pattern built by the things you do repeatedly when no one is watching. The question is not what you will do tomorrow. The question is, what are you doing today that your future cannot escape? Because your future has no voice. It cannot beg you to work harder. It cannot force you to stay disciplined. It cannot stop you from wasting time. It can only sit in silence and wait for you to decide its fate. And that is where the danger lives. Because when no one is watching, you reveal who you truly are. Not your intentions, not your dreams, not your words, your habits. Look at your day. Look at how you spend your time when there is no pressure. Look at what you choose when comfort is within reach. That is your truth. That is your trajectory. That is your future, unfolding in real time. There was a man named Thomas Edison who failed over 1,000 times before he created the light bulb. People saw failure. He saw feedback. People saw delay. He saw progress. Why? Because he was not living for the present moment. He was accountable to a future that demanded persistence. There was Henry Ford, who went bankrupt multiple times before he built an empire. The world doubted him, laughed at him, but he was not trying to prove something to them. He was trying to fulfill a vision that only he could see. And that is where everything changes. When you stop living for approval and start living for alignment with the person you are becoming. Because once you see your future clearly, your present becomes non-negotiable. You no longer ask, do I feel like it? You ask, is this who I am becoming? You no longer wait for motivation. You operate from identity. Because motivation is temporary. Identity is permanent. And the most powerful shift you will ever make is this. You stop chasing success, and you start becoming the person who naturally creates it. But here is the uncomfortable truth. You cannot become that person while holding on to your current habits. You cannot build discipline while negotiating with comfort. You cannot create greatness while tolerating mediocrity. Something has to break, either your excuses or your potential. Every single day, you stand at a silent crossroads. No audience, no applause, no recognition, just a decision to move forward or to stay the same. And the terrifying part is both choices feel small in the moment. Skipping one workout feels small. Procrastinating one task feels harmless. Choosing distraction over focus feels normal. But these are not isolated actions. They are votes. Votes for the person you are becoming. And over time, those votes become your identity. That is why most people never change. Not because they lack intelligence. Not because they lack opportunity. But because they underestimate the power of small, repeated decision. They wait for a dramatic moment, a breakthrough, a sudden burst of motivation. But transformation does not come from intensity. It comes from consistency, from showing up when you don't feel like it, from doing the work when it is boring, from staying focused when there are easier options. This is where greatness is built, not in comfort, not in ease, but in resistance. There was Abraham Lincoln, who lost election after election before becoming president. Imagine the weight of those failures. Imagine the doubt, the pressure, the temptation to quit. But he didn't, because he understood something most people never do. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Every setback was shaping him. Every loss was strengthening him. Every moment of doubt was refining his resolve. And one day, that same man who was rejected again and again led a nation through its darkest time. That is the power of persistence. That is the power of refusing to let your present circumstances define your future. But it requires something rare. It requires vision, the ability to see something that does not yet exist, and believe in it so deeply that you act as if it is inevitable. This is what separated Walt Disney from everyone else. He was fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity. He went bankrupt. His ideas were rejected over and over again. But he held on to a vision the world could not yet understand, and eventually the world had no choice but to catch up. That is your responsibility, to hold the vision, to protect it, to nurture it, even when it feels fragile, even when no one else believes in it, because your future depends on it. And here is the truth most people avoid. Clarity is not something you find. It is something you create through action, through movement, through experience. You don't think your way into a new life. You act your way into it. And with every step, the path becomes clearer. But you must be willing to start without certainty. You must be willing to move without guarantees. You must be willing to trust that your effort will compound, even when you cannot yet see the results, because success is always invisible before it becomes undeniable. And by the time the world notices, it is already too late to catch up, because while they were waiting, you were building. While they were doubting, you were working. While they were hesitating, you were becoming. That is the difference, and that difference is created today, right now in this moment. So ask yourself, if your future is watching you, what does it see? Does it see someone committed, disciplined, focused, relentless? Or does it see hesitation, excuses, distraction, comfort? Because one day, that version of you will arrive, and it will inherit everything you are doing right now. Not what you plan to do, not what you hope to do, but what you actually do. That is your reality. That is your truth. And that is your responsibility. That is your responsibility, and responsibility, man, it is heavy. Not because it is unfair, but because it is absolute. There is no escaping it, no outsourcing it, no hiding from it. You can ignore it for a day, a week, even a year. But eventually, it catches up. And when it does, it doesn't ask for excuses. It presents results you created, results you allowed, results you tolerated. That is why most people fear discipline, because discipline removes illusion. It strips away the comforting lies we tell ourselves. It forces us to confront the gap between who we are and who we claim we want to become. And that gap, oh wow, that is where your future is decided. You say you want success. You say you want freedom. You say you want to build something meaningful. But what are you doing when the moment demands action? Because desire without action, that is self-deception. And self-deception is the quiet killer of potential. It whispers to you, you'll start tomorrow, it tells you. You deserve a break. It convinces you one more day won't matter. But it always matters. Every single time. It matters because every time you delay, you reinforce a pattern. And patterns become identity. So the real question is not what you want. The real question is, who are you becoming through your actions? Are you becoming someone who keeps promises to themselves or someone who breaks them? Are you becoming someone who leans into discomfort or someone who runs from it? Are you becoming someone who builds or someone who waits? Because waiting is dangerous. Waiting feels safe. It feels controlled. It feels like you are preparing. But in reality, waiting is just fear wearing a mask. And fear is patient. It will let you wait forever while your potential slowly fades into regret. You don't need more time. You need more courage. The courage to act before you feel ready. The courage to move without certainty. The courage to commit when every part of you wants to hesitate, because here is the truth that separates winners from everyone else. Winners do not wait for the perfect moment. They create it. They understand that clarity comes after action, not before. They understand that confidence is built through doing, not thinking. They understand that progress is messy, imperfect, uncomfortable, but necessary. And most importantly, they understand that their future is watching, judging not their intentions, but their execution. There was Andrew Carnegie, a man who started with nothing, no wealth, no privilege, no advantage, but he had something far more powerful, a burning desire backed by relentless action. He didn't wait for opportunity. He created it. He didn't wait to feel ready. He became ready through movement, and over time, that relentless pursuit transformed him into one of the most powerful industrialists in history. But it wasn't luck, it wasn't chance, it was consistency. Day after day, choice after choice, action after action. That is how empires are built. Not in bursts of inspiration, but in layers of discipline. And that is what you are building right now, layer by layer, decision by decision, moment by moment. But here is where most people break. They expect immediate results. They want proof. They want validation. They want to see something happening. And when they don't, they stop. They lose faith. They quit. But success does not reward impatience. It tests it. It stretches it. It forces you to keep going long after the excitement fades, because real growth is invisible. It happens beneath the surface, like roots growing deep before a tree ever breaks through the ground. And if you quit during that phase, you never see what you were becoming. That is why resilience is not optional. It is required, the ability to keep going when there is no evidence, the ability to stay committed when there is no applause, the ability to believe when there is nothing visible to believe in. That is strength. That is power. That is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. And understand this. You are not just building success. You are building character, the discipline you develop, the resilience you strengthen, the focus you sharpen. These are not temporary traits. They become who you are. And once they become who you are, success is no longer something you chase. It is something you attract, because the world responds to who you are being, not just what you are doing. So if you become disciplined, your results reflect discipline. If you become focused, your results reflect focus. If you become relentless, your results reflect that energy. That is the law most people ignore. They try to change their results without changing themselves, but it doesn't work like that. Transformation is internal before it is external. And that is where your power lies, not in controlling the world, but in controlling yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your habits, your standards, because your standards determine your life. What you tolerate, you become. What you accept, you reinforce. What you repeat, you embody. So raise your standards. Raise them so high that your old habits can no longer survive. Raise them so high that mediocrity feels uncomfortable. Raise them so high that discipline becomes your default. Because when your standards change, everything changes, your actions align, your mindset sharpens, your focus intensifies, and your future transforms. But it all comes back to this moment, right here, right now, because this is where your future is decided. Not in some distant plan, not in some perfect scenario, but in the choices you make today. So what will you do? Will you rise or will you retreat? Will you act or will you delay? Will you become or will you remain the same? Because your future is not waiting for you to feel ready. It is waiting for you to decide. And once you decide, truly decide, everything shifts. Your energy changes. Your focus locks in. Your actions become intentional. Your excuses lose power. Because decision is the starting point of transformation. Not interest, not curiosity, not intention. Decision, a line drawn in the sand. A commitment that says, no matter what, I move forward. And when you reach that point, there is no going back, because you are no longer negotiating with your potential. You are honoring it. And one day, that future version of you, the one who is watching you all along, will look back at this exact moment, this exact decision, this exact shift, and it will say, this is where everything changed. Not because it was easy, not because it was perfect, but because you chose to act. You chose to rise, you chose to become. So again, ask yourself, if your future is watching you right now, what does it see? And more importantly, what will you do today